Midweek Pictorial, February 12, 1920. The Great Kirchhoff Dam just completed at Fresno, California. It is 125 feet high, 100 feet thick at base, and 400 feet long at top. Its design is to generate electricity by the force of falling water to operate water turbines. Stern view of the American steamer Minnesota, largest deadweight cargo carrier, on the world's largest floating dry dock, the Morse Dock at Brooklyn, New York. The lifting of the ship in 25 minutes was a world's dry docking record. Crippled U.S. Army transport Powhatan, at right, being towed by the Canadian government steamer Lady Laurier, at left, while the U.S. destroyer 155, foreground, is standing by ready to render assistance in case of need. The photograph was taken by one of the Powhatan's passengers after having been rescued by the transport Northern Pacific. The Lady Laurier with the Powhatan in tow reached Halifax safely January 27th. One of the lifeboats of the Ossipee that was smashed in transferring passengers from the disabled Powhatan. The work was most perilous because of the stiff northeasterly gale that prevailed. With her fires gone and the supply of light and heat shut off, every additional radio call of the Powhatan for help spurred rescuing vessels to renewed efforts. Soon a fleet was at hand, but the turbulent sea snapped the hawsers. Engine room bulkhead of the Powhatan and watertight door in same closed by the crew just in time to save the engine room from being flooded. On other side of door, the water is 25 feet deep and stokehold. Officers of the U.S. transport Powhatan, whose courage and superb seamanship saved the ship after 10 days' battle with waves. Seen on the U.S. vessel Kingfisher, which went to the assistance of the Powhatan. The encrusting ice shows the severity of the weather. The disabled Powhatan safely docked at Halifax January 27th, after a harrowing experience at sea. For many days she wallowed helplessly in mid-ocean, while vessels standing by were unable to assist owing to terrific gales. First meeting of the League of Nations in the Hall of the Clock at the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Quai d'Orsay, Paris, January 16, 1920. The session took place almost exactly a year after the peace conference convened, January 18, 1919, and the meeting was held in the same room where the terms of the peace treaty were discussed and framed. Delegates from 8 nations were present, but the United States was not represented. Vast throng of 100,000 people gathered before the Reichstag building in Berlin, January 13, 1920. They had assembled to protest against a bill that threatened working-class interests. Machine guns and police protecting the entrance to the Reichstag building. The mob attempted to storm the building, and the police were compelled to fire. 42 were killed and 105 injured in the battle. Gymnastic exhibition in the town of Prakatic, Czechoslovakia. The claim was made during the war that Germans predominated in this section, but this is belied by the fact that most of the participants and spectators are Czechs. The new Republic of Czechoslovakia has its profiteers, and the picture here shows an indignant throng of working men who have united in a public demonstration against the high cost of living. Some of them bear a gallows, and on it is the inscription, "The Last Warning," i.e. to profiteers. The threat has not yet been carried into effect, but history is not without examples of such executions when maddened mobs have thrown off all restraint. The Czechoslovak Minister of National Defense decorating Yugoslav officers. These, under the Serbian colors, had fought in the Dobruja during the war against the Bulgars, the common enemy of both Czechs and Serbians, and later, after the collapse of Romania, fled to Russia. Here, they joined the Czechoslovak forces under General Gaida that did such heroic work in holding back the forces sent against them by Lenin and Trotsky. Main plaza of the town of Cosatlan, Mexico, shattered by earthquake. The greater part of the town was destroyed. Loss of life running into the hundreds has been occasioned by the terrific quakes that devastated vast areas of territory. Church of Teocelo, state of Veracruz, Mexico, after the first shock. Many worshippers were buried in the ruins. The shocks were especially severe in the Veracruz district. Mountains slipped into lakes, and rivers disappeared in great openings in the earth. Wholesale destruction caused by the earthquake in the city of Cozatlan, Mexico. Only 2 buildings were left standing, and more than 1,000 of the population lost their lives. All that was left of the main street of Cozatlan, state of Veracruz, Mexico. The disaster came with startling suddenness, and many of the people were buried in the ruins of their homes. Ruins of the church at Cozatlan, Mexico, which collapsed from the force of the earthquake on January 7th, and buried 35 of the congregation among the ruins. Volcanic eruptions added to the terror of the quake. The very interesting method is here shown by which babes, whom the mothers are unable or for some reason unwilling to support, are placed in the Foundling Asylum and Maternity Hospital at Havana, Cuba. The child is placed in a kind of revolving drum inside the window shown in the first picture, and the mother vanishes. The weight of the infant rings a bell, and a sister of the institution who is detailed for the purpose hears the signal and takes the child out on the other side. The child will be well cared for, and at a later date, the mother, should she so desire, may lay claim to and receive her offspring. The asylum was founded by the Spanish governor Luis de las Casas in 1792. Major Edwin Grant Dexter, director of American Red Cross operations in South Russia, wearing the uniform of a Cossack nobleman, which rank was conferred in grateful recognition of his services. Only twice has the honor been conferred on a foreigner. The restaurants in Burma are endowed with more mobility than in this country. Instead of having to go to them, they come to you. Herein are shown a number of patrons eating at the restaurant which has been brought to them on the shoulders of the proprietor. Joyous little Czechoslovak children in the richly embroidered national costume taking part in a patriotic celebration. The plump and well-nourished figures are in striking contrast to those of the Austrian and Serbian children. Czechoslovakia suffered little from food scarcity. Greek vendors selling soft drinks in the streets of Saloniki. The drinks are prepared while you wait. The filtered water is in the large urn on the vendor's back. The lemon juice is in the small pitcher, and the drink is served from one of the little row of cans fastened about his waist. Turkish girl of 16, just after the marriage ceremony. The appearance of age is caused by gilt leaf plastered over the face. After this gilt leaf is removed, the girl puts on a veil, which she must never remove except when alone with her husband. Dentists have to cut holes in the veil to do their work. Picturesque waterfront of Danzig, the great city on the Vistula, which was one of the storm centers of discussion at the peace conference. The Germans sought desperately to retain it, but their plea was unheeded. Danzig, which has a mixed Polish and German population of over 100,000, is situated at the mouth of the Vistula River, has a large trade by rail and river, and its possibilities are enormous. Railway station at Danzig, which in January of this year became a free city under the supervision of the League of Nations. The rights of the German inhabitants are safeguarded, and they can live and trade under the same conditions as the Poles. But the predominant influence henceforth will be Polish. Its situation makes it the main outlet for Polish commerce. About the city, there is an area of 729 square miles that is internationalized. The city's history goes back as far as 970. Panoramic view of the city of Danzig, with the stately tower of St. Mary's Cathedral in the foreground. The city is picturesquely situated at the mouth of the Vistula, and has great commercial importance. General Pablo González accepting the Democratic nomination for the Mexican presidency in Mexico City, Mexico. The party he represents has in view the creation of more satisfactory relations between Mexico and the United States, and has so expressed itself in its platform. It is gratifying to note that this has been heartily endorsed in the candidate's speech of acceptance. His chances of election are regarded as excellent. Banquet to Japanese naval officers given by the Mexican Secretary of War, Urquizo.